To all of my folks who are in info, coaching, digital products, that side of the world, a space that I love so much. I've been involved in this industry now for almost 8 years, properly, I guess, kind of dabbling in it for almost a decade now. I've been seeing some stuff the past few years that really kind of breaks my heart. I see a lot of people quitting, and I see a lot of people taking this industry for granted. I'm here in Positano at the moment, just watching the sunset and looking at some of the boats on the water. I'm on land for next few days here at San Pietro, the best hotel here on the coast, at this beautiful $7,000 a night suite. And then in 5 days or so, I'll be in Saint-Tropez on a very large yacht, something like that one actually. I don't think it probably looks that big so far in the distance. And all this is possible because of the info and coaching space. And the reason I wanted to make this video is I see so many people quitting this industry and taking this industry for granted, not realizing, I have multiple different businesses and ventures in many industries, whether that's software, whether that's physical products. I'm wearing one of my caps from my eyewear brand Hills. And the more and more I explore and discover other industries and invest in other verticals or other industries, the more grateful I am for the info space, and the stronger and stronger my conviction becomes that in the next 5 years, there will be at least 10 billionaires that come from this industry if you play the game right. Now, the info game for me is build incredible products, build incredible tools, build incredible coaching businesses, build incredible programs, courses, whatever your form of delivery is. It doesn't really matter to me. I always say, you're not in the information business, you're in the transformation business. That's a video for another day. But if you take the cash flow from these businesses and then use that to build your empire, and you basically view your info business as your own little fund, your own little VC or your own little family office, and your info business, your coaching business, your knowledge business, whatever you want to refer to it as, this is the golden goose that lays the eggs, and then you take those eggs and you use it to multiply your wealth manyfold. And I just see a lot of people in the info industry, I've noticed it especially in the last year, 18 months, they take it for granted and they almost feel like anger and spite towards it. And I don't get it. I've been in the info industry for 8 years, done almost 9 figures, obviously then parlayed that into incredible investments, whether that be the massive check I wrote to WAP earlier this year to become a co-owner, whether that be buying out consultant.com a couple months ago. Not only the domain, but all of the intellectual property, the email list, the testimonials, the ad account, and all of the other assets that come with the business. Fair enough, that was a much smaller purchase, but still a transaction that's worth in the multi-millions. And quite simply, I don't see this market going anywhere. In fact, I just see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just kind of sucks to me that so many people are giving up on this industry and getting so distracted by so many other things that, quite frankly, are a long shot. I see all this crap about build enterprise value and XYZ and this and that, not understanding that maybe out of 100 software companies, 10 survive, 7 pitter patter along and do okay, maybe 3 sell, 2 for a moderate multi-million-dollar check, and 1 does incredibly, incredibly well. And then, yeah, fair enough, that 1 does incredibly well. But in that process, you have so many fallen companies. And in that process, you're not laying any golden eggs. There is no free cash flow. There is nothing to take out of the business. There are no funds to then go deploy into bigger plays. So I agree with some people that have this idea of info that, okay, cool, what's the end game here? Or, have this idea of info that, okay, it's just this hamster wheel. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe if you're not making your money go to work for you, and yeah, maybe if you're not rolling that cash and using it for bigger plays, but please show me what other industry in the world can you make multi-millions, sometimes even 8-figure plus in net profit that you can actually take out of the business. Let me give you an example. My business partner that bought half of the company earlier this year, a company called Crafted, they make their numbers public, so I don't think they'd mind me saying this. They do about 40 million US dollars a year, about 20-ish% EBITDA. So that's $8 million. But out of that $8 million, it's not like you can just take all of it out. You still have to keep a lot of working capital in the business. Whereas the info industry, that's not the case. We don't have stock. Now, yeah, sure, maybe you could say we have to put money into ads to get new customers and new clients. But yeah, sure, you see that turnover in revenue within a week, 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe at the latest 6 weeks. So the reason I say this is because I feel like a lot of people in the info industry are thinking small. And in fact, they're thinking small by trying to go out of the info coaching knowledge business niche, when what they should be doing is taking that money. Because I can tell you honestly, there's nothing, I'm around some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. And by the way, that's another hilarious thing that I see people say, if you're in the info business, regular business owners don't take you seriously. It's like sure, yeah, maybe that's your opinion. I haven't seen that to be fact in any shape, form, or fashion from myself or the most successful info people that I know. And bear in mind, I am all for having hobbies or interests or business ventures outside of info. I'm all for it. I do it myself, whether that's my own companies or whether that's businesses that I write checks for, I'm invested in, I have stakes in. I'm all for that. But the more time I venture out of info, the more I come home and I'm like, man, you're just good to me. And I think a lot of people really do genuinely take that for granted. Now, here's the thing. If you want to play the info game, and I recommend this to a lot of people, if you want to play the info game where by the end of it, you walk away with an investment portfolio of 3 million, 5 million, 10 million. By the way, that means minus debt, okay? As in that's investments and capital working for you. So, if you have a $5 million house that you live in, that does not count as your personal investment portfolio. That counts as a part of your net worth. That's technically an asset of yours. But that's not money working for you to make sure that you never need to work again. So maybe your goal is 3 million. So that way you can live off about 150K a year. I usually work off of 5%. I know some people do 4%. I know obviously your portfolio will make much more than that, or it should do. But I work off about 5%. So, maybe it's 3 million. So you can live off 150K a year. Maybe for you, it's 10 million. So you can live off 500K a year. Everyone has a number, okay, and that's fine. But the point is, once you hit that number, you can't really say, oh, I don't work for money anymore, because you do work for money, okay? Because you do have to continue to work for the rest of your life. If you are like, okay, cool, I want to get out of the info space, or I have a calling to do X, Y, Z, this, that, like, sure, that's fine, as long as you understand that most of these businesses that you build to sell, most of them fail. Like, vast majority of it. And once again, this is coming from a person who actually writes checks, like actually invests in businesses. Or I guess in the case of consultant.com, rare time that I will ever take a majority stake. Well, I guess in that case, I bought the entire business. In general, I try to avoid taking a majority stake in a business. I'm usually happy between that 5 to 30% range. That's where I'm happy investing in companies. But once again, everyone has a different philosophy. That's a discussion for another day. I guess the main point I'm trying to get across here, this is definitely going to be just a bit of a word vomit. It's just don't take this for granted. Don't take this for granted. And please just start thinking bigger. Like, I really need you to understand in the next 5 years, there are 10 billionaires that are going to come out of this industry. Now, do I think they're going to be billionaires because of the money they make from info? No, not at all. Of course not. But I do think there's going to be at least 10 people in the next 5 years who cash flow 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or maybe even $100 million from their info business, their knowledge business, their coaching business. And then they parlay that, they put that into bigger plays that they know those bigger plays, they're never going to take money out of that. Okay, those things are never going to pay for your lifestyle. They're never going to pay for your family. They're never going to pay for your loved ones. Those are plays which, by the way, run by other people. Okay, so that way you can put your attention, your focus. You have to treat yourself almost like, as I said, your own VC. You have to basically treat yourself almost like your own fund, where the info business is the cash. Okay, it's the money. It's the thing that enables you to then go, all right, cool. I'll write a 250K check here. Okay, cool. I'll write a 100K check here. In my case, I guess the checks are substantially larger, is that everyone has a different philosophy. I have my own personal M&A advisor that's like, bro, your check sizes are way too large. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I also write maybe 1/5 or 1/10 the amount of checks that you do. So for me, I like to go lower volume, higher conviction. And then that's where we get into conversation of deal structures and this, that, et cetera, et cetera. But once again, that's really not the point here. I think the main thing is that I'm trying to get across is like, this market is only growing. And I keep getting more and more and more reminders of it. So I think now of all times is the worst time to get out of info. I look at people that get out of info and I'm like, I mean, sure, if you want to make it easier for the rest of us, please, kumbaya, go ahead, like go for it. But I personally just think it is a little foolish. I personally think that a lot of people in our industry really are very ungrateful, and I understand when you're in the info bubble. I think one of the best things that you can do is really go speak to business owners outside of info. And I think the more that you speak to business owners outside of info, the more you realize, like, you know what? This industry may be the greatest single industry in the world for you personally. In terms of, no, info will never make you a billionaire directly. Okay, I don't want to make that clear. But show me what other industry in the world pretty much guarantees you that in the next 5 years, you'll have 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. It depends on who you are and how serious you take it. Profited from the business that then you can go deploy into your bigger plays. Show me where you're going to get that sort of free cash flow from. It's not going to happen. Okay, so that's why for those of you guys who are considering getting out of the info space, my plea to you, I mean, listen, quite frankly, at the end of the day, it doesn't change my life. Fair enough, we have our advisory clients that we work with one-on-one at consultant.com, but this has been our 8th year in a row year-on-year growth in profit. And we're not slowing down. And this is actually going to be our biggest year by a landslide. So between owning consultant.com and being a co-owner in WAP, and also just being an active participant every single day in this sport, in this industry, in May, we actually broke the WAP record for the most, I don't like to say it like this, amount of money made. Okay, I'd rather say the most transaction volume, let's put it that way. We broke every single record, the 1 hour, the 24 hour, the 7-day, and the 30-day record. In fact, we broke the 30-day record in 48 hours and 19 minutes. So not only am I an owner in this space, a coach technically in this space, I'm also a player in this space. So I can tell you hand on heart, I know this space more intimately than anyone else. I can tell you that for a fact right now. Maybe someone has a big month here and there, but to do what we've done 8 years in a row, year on year on year, is unprecedented. And we ain't going anywhere. And I know for a fact, I'll be a billionaire. Do I think I'm going to build a $1 billion unicorn company from the ground up? No. And quite frankly, to be honest, I wouldn't want to, because I don't want to have investors, because when you have investors, you have a boss. And that's unfortunately another thing that a lot of info people don't understand. They don't understand that when you start a business and you take on outside funding, you have founder stock, which just means you have common stock, which means that you are at the bottom of the liquidation preference. And they also don't understand how dilution works. And the fact that when you sell your company for $1 billion, a lot of times you personally walk away with, at best, 250 at best, absolute at best, maybe 200. A lot of the people I know that actually sold around that $1 billion mark, they walked away with about 50 to 60. Am I saying that's bad money? No, I'm not saying that's bad money. I'm just saying to live under the thumb of having multiple bosses, having a board, having all this headache, having all this stress, and living on peanuts in the process, to walk away after 6 to 8 years to 10 years with 50 to 60 million when you could have just lived great in that same process, no boss, and made the same amount of money from info. And in fact, as you're making money in info, in coaching, in the knowledge business, you then use that to reinvest as time goes on. So you're actually making your money work for you in that process. For me, that's my plan. That's always been my plan, is take the free cash flow from my business and roll it into assets. And I have my more boring, safe investments, and then I have my more high risk stuff in private companies. And I know with that formula, for a fact, in the next 5 to 15 years, I'll hit that number. And when all is said and done, sitting there asking myself, how did I manage to do it? As I said, without having multiple bosses, without having the anxiety and stress of external investors, without having to take a small salary for myself, because as I said, I have investors on board. It's not like I can distribute all that money. As I said, these businesses that sell for those numbers, all of the money stays in the company. Almost never are they taking heavy distributions. But us in our land, we live in la la land. Like, it's really, sometimes I just want to smack these info people, like smack some gratefulness into them and smack some sense into them and just go, you're living in la la land and you don't even realize it. And in fact, you're taking it for granted. That's the worst part. It's like, number one, you're living in la la land, which is like great. Like, it's beautiful that our industry can do these things for us. But to then take that industry and take it for granted and try to even talk it, like, to me, is just wild. It's absurd. So I know that this has really just been a word vomit, but it's just something I have to get off my chest. If you are in the info industry, don't quit. Think bigger. But what that means is treat yourself like your own fund. Whether you're a person that's so boring with your investments, you're like, okay, I am my own family office. I represent myself. I have all this cash flow here and I'm going to use it to expand my wealth and multiply my wealth. And just go right now, pull up a simple compound calculator and see how this stuff compounds. Okay. And by the way, even what you are making right now, if you just put that into a compound calculator and you make sure that you're investing 50 to 90%, it depends on how much money you make and also the lifestyle that you live. As time has gone on, I've actually found myself, you get to a certain point in life, you're like, I can spend more money, but it's not going to it's genuinely not going to change anything for me. So as time goes on, hopefully, as you grow your info business, which all of you guys should aim to do, you'll have even more money that you can actually take and put into your own personal fund. But let's account for the fact that you don't even grow your info business. Just go put that into a compound calculator, take 50 to 90% of everything you make, invest it, and see what that does over a 30-year timeline. And by the way, over that time, you're going to start getting better as a business owner. You're going to start spotting more opportunities. You're going to have more companies that come onto your radar at an early stage that you can muscle your way into and invest in with very favorable terms. Or maybe you play another game and you start to get really good at buying distressed assets in your specific lane that you understand. Like for me, there's certain things that, like real estate, for example, I have more than 8 figures in real estate, but that's all personal stuff. Like I don't rent any of those properties out. They're just for loved ones or legacy properties that I want in future. That's not really your money working for you. And for me personally, I don't really play in the real estate game because that's not my area of expertise. Whereas for some people, that's their area of expertise and they can buy distressed assets and add value to them and make sure it's cash flowing well and all this stuff, yada, yada. Everyone has their thing, okay? Everyone has their lane, and everyone understands that if you have money, it's so much easier to multiply it. But then they want to run away from the info space when the info space is the thing that's giving them 500K a year in investable cash, $1 million a year, 3 million a year, 5 million a year, 10 million a year. And they don't understand how preposterous and how ridiculous that is, and in what a fortunate position you are. And if you stop being, quite frankly, such a little princess about it, and you start to have a bit of gratitude for what this business does for you, what your industry does for you, and you start to think a little bigger, because yes, of course, if you just keep doing this again and again and again without actually making that money go to work for you, I can understand with that where you think, oh, what's the end game? But please also just try to speak to and surround yourself with a lot more people that are in other industries that, by the way, have sold, and you've seen the headline number and you don't understand actually what the deal terms are and what their payout schedule is and all the complications that come with it, and the fact that when you see these big companies, almost never are they owned by a sole individual, and understand what their shares are and what they've been diluted down to. And also the fact that, yeah, maybe they sold for 50 million and they ran that business for 10 years. But if you ran your info business for 10 years, maybe you would have pocketed 35 million. And as that portfolio grows over time, you would have ended up with 50 million as well, but done it with a much better lifestyle, with no boss, with no outside investors or XYZ, all this stuff. So for the sake of not wanting to repeat myself here, please, for the love of God, get your head down, focus. I guarantee you can double, triple, quadruple your info business. And then it's time to actually go take that money and start making it work for you. Whether your aspirations are to become a billionaire, or whether your aspirations is just to have 10 million invested working for you and live a sick life. Because you know what? And I can tell you this from personal experience. Once you get past 30 million, nothing changes anyways. So for most of you, why not just enjoy your life? Finally. Or be a sicko and, take it to the hundreds or even the big B. So anyways, I'm going to get back to my very cold coffee at this point, shower up, head to dinner, and probably spend the next few minutes once again just taking a moment to say thank you to what the info business, the digital product business, the coaching business has done for me, has done for my life, has done for my personal net worth by giving me the cash that when opportunities did arise, I was able to capitalize, and I was able to write the checks that I was able to write, or buy the assets that I bought, or the properties, or invest in the market in the times that I did. So anyways, I hope that gave you something to think about.